Black CEO drenched in wine by Billionaire's sister. Moments later, she canceled their $2.4 billion deal. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to Selena Ward. The ballroom of the Kingsley estate shimmered under 1,000 chandelier crystals, a place built to remind visitors just how small they were. But tonight, the air carried a quiet tension, the kind you feel in your ribs before you even realize something is wrong. And it all snapped the second Ariana Kingsley turned around, her emerald dress catching the light like a weapon. She didn't hesitate. She didn't even blink. She just lifted her glass of red wine, smirked, and in one clean, deliberate motion, threw it straight across Selena's chest, as if she were wiping away a stain on the family name. The wine hit with a soft splash, but a loud message. Gasps rippled across the ballroom like a dropped tray in a cathedral. Some guests froze with their champagne flutes halfway to their lips. Others whispered behind jeweled fingers. And Ariana, the billionaire's sister who'd never heard no a day in her life, leaned in with a soft, cutting laugh. Next time, she said, stand where people like you belong, not in the VIP lane. Her voice sliced through the room like a blade. Selena didn't move. She didn't wipe the wine. She didn't flinch. She simply stood there, the red dripping down her tailored black suit one slow line at a time, as if the insult was afraid to fall too fast. Attendants began circling like anxious birds. A woman in a silver gown whispered, "Is she staff?" A man beside her muttered, "Probably someone's assistant who got lost." The security manager, broad-shouldered and overeager, stepped forward with a rehearsed authority. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step away from the Kingsley section. This area is reserved for principal guests only." Selena raised her eyes, calm, observant, unreadable. Her silence made him stumble. He expected fear. What he met was composure. That unsettled him. Ariana folded her arms triumphantly, the satisfaction of humiliation glowing on her face. "Don't just ask her," she said. "Escort her out. My brother doesn't need distractions tonight." The words clung to the air. Distractions. People like you. Selena had heard variations of those lines her entire life, from the college professor who assumed she was in the wrong classroom to the hotel manager who once told her, "Penthouse guests usually come dressed a little more appropriately." She was 19 then, carrying the cheapest briefcase Target sold, standing in a lobby that smelled like polished marble and freshly printed judgment. They made her wait 2 hours before letting her check in. She never forgot. And she didn't forget tonight either. Because humiliation always had a familiar taste, metallic, slow, cold. But power had a taste too. And hers was sharper. A young man near the LED screen, Evan Liu, clutched a tablet with the event's digital registry. He had seen her name earlier. He knew exactly who she was. His throat tightened as he watched security inch closer. But fear glued his feet to the floor. He wasn't ready to speak. Not yet. Meanwhile, the crowd began drifting backward, creating a quiet ring around Selena, as if she carried radioactivity. Ariana lifted another glass from a passing tray, white wine this time, raising it high like a victory toast. "See," she said loudly. "Order is restored." But at that moment, something shifted, subtle, almost silent. Selena reached into her pocket and tapped her phone once. Just once. A soft chime confirmed the command. Then her voice, calm enough to cut marble, flowed out. "Initiate the withdrawal protocol." She didn't announce it. She wasn't talking to Ariana. She wasn't talking to security or to the guests holding their breaths like ornaments. She was talking to someone on the other end of the line, someone whose response came instantly. "Protocol is active." Standing by. Selena lifted her eyes, meeting Ariana's smug smile with quiet precision. And that was the first moment anyone in the room truly looked at her. Not the wine on her suit, not the humiliation, but the steel beneath it. A billionaire's sister had just drenched the wrong woman in wine. And the $2.4 billion deal her family depended on was now hanging by a single thread, the patience of the woman they'd tried to shove aside. The music in the ballroom did not stop, but it faltered, as if the violins themselves sensed the shift in the air. Guests pretended to return to their conversations, but every eye remained fixed on the woman standing in a wine-soaked suit that somehow made her look more powerful, not less. Selena Ward's expression never changed, not when Ariana Kingsley tossed her hair like she had won, not when security hovered with uncertainty, not even when whispers turned into speculation that spread across the room in soft, frantic waves. Near the LED wall, Evan Liu's hands shook around the tablet he held. His internship contract was short-term, but his conscience stretched far longer. He stared at Selena's name glowing on the guest list, at the title beneath it, at the designation that could end the entire night with a single command. He swallowed hard and stepped back, watching as power shifted invisibly in the room. Selena stood still as the wine cooled against her suit, its stain a crimson declaration across the fabric. The ballroom lights caught the droplets on the floor, each one a reminder of Ariana's arrogance. Ariana, emboldened by her audience, took a slow step closer. "You know," she said with a smile too sweet to be honest, "you could have just walked away. But then again, people like you never know when they are not wanted." Her voice carried just enough to hit the guests standing near the champagne tower. Selena lifted her chin a fraction of an inch, an act so slight it could have been mistaken for a breath. But it changed the temperature of the room. The security manager frowned. Something did not feel right. Something about her composure was wrong for a humiliated guest. Before he could figure out what it was, Selena's phone vibrated once in her palm. A voice hummed through her earpiece, clear and controlled. "Confirmation received. Withdrawal protocol 70% complete. Awaiting your final approval." A tremor of movement rippled through Selena's eyes, there for a single heartbeat. Then it was gone. Ariana crossed her arms dramatically, turning toward the nearest group of elite donors who watched the unfolding tension with fascination. "Honestly," Ariana continued, "this is why we need to vet people at the door. Anyone can just walk in and pretend they belong." Her words echoed Selena's memory far deeper than the ballroom walls. She was 22 again, standing in a boutique showroom in Chicago, wearing a blazer she saved for months to buy. A woman at the counter told her, "You must be lost," without even looking up. They denied her entry into a networking event that later shaped 3 entire tech sectors. She remembered walking toward the train platform that night, the cold wind slicing through her coat, every gust whispering that the world would always see her as less. Eventually, she realized something crucial. They could only belittle what they did not understand. And they never understood her power. Not then. Not now. Back in the present, the ballroom's chandeliers flickered as if reacting to the current running through the crowd. A tall man in a navy suit approached Ariana carefully. "Ariana," he whispered, "maybe you should let it go. There are cameras everywhere tonight." Ariana scoffed, motioning dramatically toward Selena. "Let what go? If she cannot handle a little spill, she does not belong in a room with real money." Selena's eyes sharpened, not anger, not pain, but something colder. Determination. A guest near the orchestra pit whispered, "She is not reacting." "Why is she not reacting?" Another replied, "Because she knows something we do not." Evan Liu's heartbeat thudded in his ears. His hands moved before his fear could stop them. He stepped forward, voice trembling but audible. "Miss Kingsley," he said, addressing Ariana with a politeness she did not deserve, "she does belong here." Several heads snapped toward him. Ariana blinked, startled. "Excuse me." Evan held out the tablet slightly, the screen facing downward, his voice steadier now. "She is not an assistant. She is not a random guest. She is here because her name is on the principal contract list." Ariana laughed, that same sharp, dismissive sound she used to mask insecurity. "Everyone wants to feel important, Evan. Do not get fooled by a suit." But Selena spoke then, and her voice was so soft yet so precise that every conversation in the room quietly died. "Say my name," she told Evan. Evan inhaled. "Selena Ward." A ripple rushed through the ballroom. Some guests gasped, recognizing the name. Others froze, eyebrows lifting as realization dawned. A few turned pale. Ariana's smile cracked. But the room had already shifted. The current had already changed direction. And the Kingsley Empire had no idea it was standing on a fault line Selena herself controlled. The moment Evan spoke Selena Ward's name aloud, the ballroom's atmosphere shifted so sharply it felt like the air itself tightened. Conversations died mid-sentence, champagne flutes froze halfway to painted lips, and a tremor of unease rippled across the crowd like a fault line splitting open beneath polished shoes. Ariana Kingsley's smile faltered, a small crack running through her confidence, but she forced it back into place as if the room had not just turned its attention on her with pointed curiosity. Selena Ward, Ariana repeated, as though tasting the name might change its meaning. Never heard of her. Evan swallowed, gripping the tablet with fingers that were almost trembling. You should have, he said quietly, because she is the lead signatory on your family's $2.4 billion acquisition. Silence clapped through the space like thunder. Guests stiffened. Someone in the back whispered, "That's Selena Ward?" Another echoed, "The tech magnate? The one who turned 2 failed startups into a global powerhouse." And suddenly, everyone understood exactly who was standing in a wine-soaked suit beneath the chandelier light. Selena remained still, her posture straight, her gaze steady, her silence more cutting than any outburst could ever be. Ariana's eyes darted around as though searching for someone to validate her disbelief. She let out a shaky laugh. This in turn is confused. That cannot be true. If she was anyone important, we would have been informed. Before Evan could speak again, a senior executive from Kingsley Capital rushed toward Ariana, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Her face was pale, her voice urgent. "Ariana," she whispered harshly, "do not say another word." Ariana blinked rapidly. "Why? She is nobody." "She is not nobody," the executive snapped under her breath. "She is the reason this entire acquisition exists. Without her approval, your brother does not get the deal, the investors do not get their returns, and this company does not get the expansion it has been planning for 3 years. A cold chill slid down Ariana's spine as she glanced at Selena, who had not moved an inch. The ballroom seemed to tilt slightly as the truth settled over her. She looked at the wine dripping across Selena's suit, down to the droplets on the marble floor, and for the first time, regret flickered in her expression. But arrogance dies slowly. Ariana forced a breath and lifted her chin. "Even if she is who you say she is," she muttered, "she should not look like that." Those words carried farther than she intended. A man near the stage shook his head. A woman in a sapphire gown folded her arms. Another guest whispered, "And that is exactly the problem." Selena's eyes lifted slightly, not toward Ariana, but toward the executive standing beside her. Her voice emerged calm and measured, each word sharpened by control. "You should listen to her." Ariana's jaw clenched. "Or what?" Selena took a single step forward, the movement subtle but seismic. "Or you will learn that appearances are the smallest currency in this room." Guests held their breath. Ariana tried to laugh, but the sound thinned out, brittle and hollow. "You think you can threaten me?" "No," Selena said softly. "I do not threaten. I confirm." Her phone vibrated gently in her palm. She raised it just enough for the Kingsley executive to see the screen. The executive's eyes widened. "Is that?" Selena nodded. "Protocol 95% complete. Funds frozen. Permissions revoked. Contracts halted." Ariana felt the blood drain from her face. "You did not." Selena's gaze locked onto hers, unwavering. "You drenched me in wine. I drenched your deal in consequences." Gasps rippled through the ballroom. A man muttered, "She just ended it." Another whispered, "In real time." And for the first time all night, Ariana Kingsley stepped backward. Not because she wanted to, because the room itself was no longer standing with her. The shift had begun, and the collapse was only moments away. The moment Ariana stepped back, the ballroom reacted as if a hidden curtain had been pulled away, revealing a truth no one wanted to admit, but everyone already sensed. The violins continued their soft melody, but the musicians were barely breathing, their bows trembling as they watched the power dynamic tilt like a chandelier losing its balance. Selena Ward stood at the center of it all, wine staining her suit but dignity radiating like a force field. Ariana tried to find her footing, her voice cracking as she whispered, "You cannot cancel a $2.4 billion deal over a glass of wine." Selena tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. It was not the wine. It was the disrespect. Those words struck harder than any raised voice could. Guests exchanged glances, some ashamed, some fascinated, some suddenly aware that they had stayed silent for far too long. A silver-haired investor near the bar muttered, "She is right. It was never about the drink. But the Kingsley family's downfall did not begin with Ariana's arrogance. It began with the truth unraveling behind her. The ballroom doors opened sharply, and Charles Kingsley himself entered, the billionaire whose empire was built on confidence and clean numbers. He carried the look of a man dragged from a boardroom mid-sentence. He scanned the room, noticing the tension clinging to the air like static. His eyes fell on Ariana first. "What happened?" he asked, voice low, cautious. Ariana pointed at Selena with a shaky hand. "She is trying to sabotage us. She is threatening the deal." Charles turned toward Selena, about to speak, until he saw the wine dripping down her suit. His mouth tightened. "Ariana," he said, "please tell me you did not do what this looks like." Ariana stuttered. "She was in the way. She is the acquisition lead," Charles snapped, his voice slicing through the ballroom like a whip. Gasps erupted again. Ariana stared at him, betrayed by the truth itself. "Why did nobody tell me?" Charles exhaled sharply. "Because I did not think my sister would publicly humiliate a partner on the most important night of our quarter." A hush washed across the room. Selena did not move. She did not gloat. She did not offer rescue. Her silence was the most expensive consequence in the entire estate. Charles stepped toward her. "Miss Ward," he began carefully, "allow me to apologize on behalf of my family." Selena lowered her gaze slightly, not in deference, but in acknowledgement of a man finally stepping into responsibility. "Your apology is noted," she said, "but it does not reverse the damage." Ariana inhaled sharply. "Damage?" "It was just enough," Charles warned, raising a hand. But Ariana's pride was louder than her brother's caution. "She is overreacting. These events are for people who actually belong here." The room inhaled collectively. Some guests stepped back, as if expecting lightning to strike. Selena drew one slow breath. Her phone buzzed again. "Protocol 100% complete." Awaiting confirmation, the voice in her earpiece said. Charles noticed the shift in her posture and froze. "Miss Ward," he asked, "what was that?" Selena met his eyes fully for the first time. "That was the final stage of the withdrawal." Murmurs exploded. Someone whispered, "She canceled it." Another said, "This is going to tank the Kingsley stock by morning." Ariana stepped forward in desperation. "You would destroy a family's entire financial future because I got upset?" Selena's voice remained steady. "You destroyed your own future when you decided I was beneath you." The words were clean, sharp, devastating. The Kingsley executive who had warned Ariana earlier stepped toward Charles, whispering urgently, "We need to salvage this. She has every legal right to pull out." And she did. Charles closed his eyes briefly, shoulders heavy under the weight of his sister's arrogance. "Miss Ward," he said softly, "I beg you to reconsider." The room leaned in, holding on to the tiniest thread of hope. But Selena did not flinch. "The deal is canceled," she said, "and the consequences are yours to carry." The collapse had begun. The collapse did not happen in a scream or a crash. It happened in the kind of silence that suffocates a room and exposes every fault line people thought they had hidden. The ballroom seemed to shrink around the Kingsley family as Selena Ward's words settled like an iron verdict. The chandeliers glowed brighter, as if illuminating the truth that Ariana had spent the night trying to bury under arrogance and entitlement. Charles Kingsley's jaw tightened, his voice low and strained as he whispered, "Selena, please. This deal means everything to our expansion. Our investors are expecting results." Selena held his gaze without blinking. "And I was expecting respect." Ariana scoffed, her voice breaking with desperation and pride tangled together. "This is ridiculous. You are going to ruin an entire financial ecosystem over an emotional reaction." Selena's expression did not change. "I do not react emotionally. I respond structurally." The line cut through the space, sharp enough to make a woman near the bar whisper, "That is the coldest thing I have ever heard." Evan Liu, still clutching the tablet, looked from Selena to Charles, then to Ariana, whose face had drained of all color. He remembered a training module he had completed on corporate ethics, a section that stated, "When a system protects bias, someone must break the system." He never expected to witness that moment unfold in real time. Charles stepped closer, lowering his voice, trying to salvage what little dignity he had left. "Miss Ward, I assure you we can address my sister's behavior. She will apologize. She will make a statement. I will personally Selena raised a hand gently, and Charles fell silent before he even realized he had obeyed. This is not about a statement, she said. This is about a pattern. Ariana frowned. What pattern? Selena inhaled slowly, and for a moment her mind drifted back to a memory she wished she had forgotten. She was 18, sitting in a scholarship interview room with two men who refused to look her in the eye. One of them said, "You should consider something less ambitious. People from your background rarely succeed in those fields." She remembered smiling, not because the comment pleased her, but because she had already decided she would make their limitations irrelevant. That same tone lived in Ariana's voice tonight, wrapped in money and silk instead of cheap bias, but just as poisonous. Selena returned to the present, her eyes fixed on Ariana. People like you have always believed your judgment is a mirror of someone else's worth. It is not. Ariana took a step back as if the words themselves had weight. I did not mean, you meant every word, Selena replied calmly. And you acted on it. Charles ran a hand over his face, sensing the cameras shifting toward him. Guests who once adored the Kingsley brand were now recording, whispering, calculating what this scandal would mean by morning. A well-known financial journalist near the balcony leaned toward her colleague and murmured, "This is going to break the news cycle." The Kingsley executive who had tried to warn Ariana earlier stepped beside Charles, her voice urgent. "Sir, the board is texting me nonstop. They want to know if the deal is salvageable." Charles glanced at Selena hopefully. "Is it?" Selena tapped her phone again, her voice steady enough to silence the entire ballroom. "The deal was canceled 10 minutes ago." Ariana's breath hitched. "You cannot do that." Selena met her eyes with quiet force. "I already have." Gasps rippled outward like a shockwave. The music faltered again, the violinist's bow stuttering across the strings. A man in a designer suit whispered, "Their stock is going to drop before sunrise." Another replied, "This could trigger a full audit." Ariana grabbed her brother's arm. "Do something. You are the CEO." But Charles did not move. He looked at Selena the way a man looks at the truth he has avoided for too long. "Miss Ward," he said slowly, "is there anything at all, that would make you reconsider?" Selena studied him, her expression unreadable. "Yes," she finally said. Ariana's eyes widened with hope. "What is it? Just tell us." Selena stepped forward, her presence quiet but overwhelming. "Accountability," she said. "Real accountability, not damage control." Ariana blinked, confused. "Meaning what?" Selena's gaze did not waver. "Meaning your family accepts responsibility for the culture it allows. Meaning you understand that actions have consequences. Meaning you stop mistaking privilege for immunity." Ariana opened her mouth, but Selena's voice cut through the air before she could speak. "You asked what would make me reconsider. That is the price." The room held its breath as the Kingsleys realized something devastating. Selena had not come to negotiate. She had come to end a legacy of disrespect. Whether they could afford that price or not would determine everything that came next. Ashes of tension and disbelief rippled through the ballroom, as Selena Ward's final words from the last moment hung in the air like a sentence waiting to be carried out. Accountability. It was a word that did not belong to the Kingsley family, and everyone in the room knew it. Ariana Kingsley stared at Selena with a mixture of fear, disbelief, and the fading remnants of entitlement that had carried her through life like a shield. Her voice staggered out, thin and cracking. "You want accountability from us? For what?" "For one mistake." Selena's gaze did not shift, did not soften. "This was not one mistake. This was a window into a culture your family has nurtured for decades. A culture that assumes anyone who does not look like you must somehow be beneath you." Guests murmured, nodding quietly, some with sympathy, others with realization, others with fear of becoming the next subject of Selena's laser-cutting calm. Charles Kingsley looked older now, as if the weight of generations of unchecked arrogance had suddenly settled on his shoulders. "Selena," he said, taking a slow breath, "tell us what accountability means to you." Selena turned her head slightly, allowing the chandelier light to catch the wine dried on her suit. "It means owning the harm you have caused, not apologizing because it is convenient. It means acknowledging that people like your sister feel empowered to humiliate others publicly because they believe your family name will protect them." Ariana clenched her fists. "I do not need protection. I did not do anything that warrants." Selena cut her off with a single look. The kind that silenced entire rooms before a word was spoken. The kind that reminded Ariana exactly who she had poured wine onto. You humiliated me in front of hundreds of people, Selena said quietly, because you assumed I was less than you. A hush swept across the space. The violin bows stopped entirely now, as if the instruments themselves needed to hear what came next. But you were wrong, Selena continued, and your actions have consequences. Consequences that extend far beyond your discomfort or embarrassment. Evan Liu, still gripping the tablet, whispered under his breath, "This is what real power looks like." A woman near him nodded slowly. She is rewriting the hierarchy right in front of them. Charles swallowed hard, the reality sinking in. If we agree to your terms of accountability, would you reconsider the withdrawal? Selena examined him with a calm that felt like judgment and destiny woven together. Possibly, she said. Ariana stepped forward quickly, desperation overcoming pride. Fine. I will apologize. I will post it on social media if that helps. I will say whatever the board wants me to say. But Selena shook her head once. Slowly. Firmly. An apology made to protect the brand is not accountability, she said. Accountability is understanding why your apology is needed. Ariana blinked. Then what do you want me to say? Selena stepped closer, not threatening, but unmistakably dominant. I want you to say the truth, she replied. That you judged me based on my appearance, that you assumed I did not belong, and that you acted out of prejudice. I want you to acknowledge your bias before the people who witnessed it. Ariana froze. The room felt too bright, too close, too heavy. You want me to destroy my own reputation, she whispered. No, Selena answered. I want you to rebuild it with honesty. A ripple of awe moved through the guests. The Kingsley executive exhaled in relief, as though recognizing the first real possibility of salvaging anything. Charles nodded. Ariana, she is right. But Ariana shook her head violently. No, she wants me to admit I was wrong. I cannot do that. Selena did not move. Then the deal remains cancelled. The words landed like a drop of ink spreading through water, darkening everything it touched. Charles closed his eyes, the weight of billions collapsing in his chest. Ariana felt tears crest, not from remorse, but from panic. This cannot be happening, she muttered. Selena turned her attention back to Charles. Accountability is the price, she said calmly. And tonight, you must decide if your sister's ego is worth more than $2.4 billion. The room inhaled sharply. Charles looked at Ariana, and for the first time in her life, she saw something new in his eyes. Consequence. Responsibility. Expectation. The things she had never been forced to face. Ariana, Charles said gently but firmly, it is time to choose. And as the ballroom waited, breathless, the weight of that choice settled on Ariana like a crown made of stone. The weight of Charles Kingsley's words pressed down on the ballroom like a closing vault door as he told his sister it was time to choose. The chandeliers above flickered softly, casting long shards of light that seemed to sharpen every expression in the room, from pity to anticipation to quiet satisfaction. Ariana stood frozen, her breath shallow, her pride trembling at the edge of collapse. For the first time in her life, she was not the center of power. She was the cause of its unraveling. Her voice escaped in a cracked whisper. You really want me to stand here and humiliate myself? Selena Ward's eyes met hers with unwavering calm. You already humiliated yourself when you poured that wine, she said, her words steady and clinical. What you are being asked for now is responsibility. Ariana's lips parted, but no sound followed. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Guests shifted, their shoes whispering against the marble floor. One man near the orchestra murmured, "This is the moment. She either grows or breaks." Evan Liu felt his pulse in his throat. He had never seen a power shift so complete, so elegantly executed, without raised voices or chaos. It was happening through precision, truth, and the quiet strength of a woman who had been underestimated her entire life. Charles exhaled heavily, stepping closer to Ariana. This is bigger than you, he told her softly. You have to face what you did. Ariana blinked rapidly, her mascara threatening to crack. I cannot do it, she whispered. I cannot stand in front of all these people and admit. Her gaze flicked toward Selena's wine-stained suit, then away quickly, as if the reality was too bright to look at directly. Selena's voice softened, but only for a moment. You think accountability will destroy you, she said. But what destroys people is refusing to change. Ariana's breath hitched as the words settled deep, trembling through the layers of privilege she had always mistaken for armor. A woman in a sapphire gown near the bar nodded slowly. She needs to hear that, she whispered to her companion. She has needed to hear that for years. The ballroom felt smaller now, compressed by truth, anticipation, and inevitability. Ariana looked at Charles as though begging him for rescue, but he shook his head. I cannot shield you from this, he said. Not anymore. The reality struck Ariana's chest like a sudden weight, heavy and cold. Her entire life had been built on the unspoken promise that her last name would cushion her falls, erase her mistakes, and silence anyone she wronged. But tonight, none of that mattered. Not against Selena Ward. Not against the truth. Ariana turned slowly, facing the crowd. Dozens of eyes, some critical, some compassionate, many stunned, waited for her decision. Her throat tightened. Her knees wavered. She felt as exposed as if the room had stripped away every layer of entitlement she ever wore. She began, barely audible. The words dissolved. Selena took one step forward, not threatening, but grounding. Say the truth, she said quietly. Not for me. For yourself. Ariana's shoulders shook. She wiped a trembling hand across her cheek. Finally, after a long, impossible silence, she whispered, I judged you. I judged you because of how you looked. I assumed you did not belong here. The room inhaled sharply. Cameras shifted. Several guests exchanged glances tinged with shock and something like reluctant respect. Ariana swallowed again, forcing out the rest. And I was wrong. The admission cracked open the ballroom, releasing a wave of disbelief and murmured reactions. A man near the stage whispered, That must have hurt. Another replied, It needed to. Selena held Ariana's gaze without triumph, without cruelty. Only clarity. That, Selena said softly, was accountability. Ariana's shoulders sagged, as if a lifetime of unchecked arrogance had finally been dragged into the light. Charles stepped beside her, relief flickering across his features. But before hope could settle in, Selena raised her phone slowly, the screen lighting her face with a soft, decisive glow. Now, she said, her voice a blade of calm steel. Let us discuss the consequences. The ballroom felt suspended in a breath that refused to release as Selena Ward lifted her phone, its soft glow illuminating the tension etched across every face in the room. Even the chandeliers seemed to dim, as if preparing for the verdict that would reshape reputations, fortunes, and futures. Ariana stood trembling, her earlier confession still echoing faintly like a crack in a marble wall, a fracture no one could pretend not to see. Charles Kingsley swallowed hard, fighting the instinct to negotiate, to salvage, to fix, but he sensed this was not a moment for business strategy. This was judgment. Selena's voice was measured and controlled, the kind of calm that came only from someone who had survived far more than a spilled glass of wine. Accountability begins with truth, she said, holding the phone steady. Consequences follow. A ripple of murmurs moved through the guests, some leaning in, others stepping back, all desperate to witness what true power looked like when it was no longer polite or hidden. Ariana's breath stuttered in her chest. What consequences? Her voice was small now, stripped of its usual armor. Selena stepped forward, her heels striking the marble with a sound too soft for the impact it carried. The deal is canceled, she said plainly. That remains unchanged. Ariana's face crumpled, disbelief and horror tangling together. But I apologized, she whispered. I said everything you asked. An apology does not erase the damage, Selena replied. It acknowledges it. Nothing more. Charles's voice cracked with desperation. Selena, please reconsider. The board relies on this acquisition. Hundreds of employees are expecting the merger. Selena regarded him with a level of clarity that made the air tighten. And what do you think they would say if they watched how your sister treated me tonight? Do you imagine they would want to be led by a company that protects the ones who belittle others? Charles looked away, shame tightening his posture. A tech investor near the balcony whispered, She has a point. This is a leadership issue, not just a public relations disaster. Another replied, This could sink the Kingsleys for good. Ariana's eyes darted frantically around the room, searching for someone to defend her, someone. to bridge the chasm she had created. But no one stepped forward. Even her closest social circle stood still, their silence speaking louder than any justification could. Selena lowered her phone slightly, her expression sharpening. "As for your personal consequences," she said, pivoting her attention fully toward Ariana, "those are not mine to determine. Those are your brother's." Charles stiffened, realizing the spotlight had now turned on him. "You are the leader of this family," Selena continued. "You decide whether arrogance is rewarded or corrected." The ballroom seemed to pulse with the weight of her words. Ariana stared at her brother, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief. "Charles, you are not seriously considering," but he was. Everyone could see it in the way his shoulders sagged, in the way his jaw clenched, in the way his gaze avoided hers. The Kingsley executive approached nervously. "Sir," she whispered, "the board will expect disciplinary action. They are already messaging me." "Disciplinary action?" Ariana gasped. "For what? For a mistake? For a pattern?" Selena corrected calmly. And that was the final turning point. Charles exhaled, a man making a decision he should have made years ago. "Ariana," he said, voice heavy, "you will step down from your role in the company effective immediately." Gasps exploded across the ballroom. Ariana staggered back as if physically struck. "You cannot do this," she whispered. "I am your sister." Charles's eyes glistened with something that looked like sorrow. "I am doing this because you are my sister, and because our name cannot continue carrying the weight of your behavior." Tears welled in Ariana's eyes, spilling onto her cheeks like the wine she had thrown earlier, but this time she did not have the power to direct where the stain landed. Selena watched silently, not gloating, not savoring, simply witnessing the natural consequence of unchecked cruelty meeting immovable integrity. "This," Selena said softly, "is accountability." The room stood frozen, breathless, knowing one truth with absolute certainty. For the first time in her life, Ariana Kingsley was facing the world without the shield of her last name. And for the first time tonight, the Kingsley Empire understood who truly held the power in the ballroom. The ballroom held its silence as if the walls themselves understood the significance of what had just unfolded. Ariana Kingsley stood motionless, tears streaking down her face, the weight of her brother's decision carving a hollow space in the room where her arrogance once lived. The empire she had leaned on her entire life no longer stood behind her, and for the first time, the power she thought she owned had evaporated into thin air. Selena Ward remained still, the wine stains across her suit drying into a dark reminder of everything that had ignited this moment. Guests watched her not with pity, but with a reverence that had grown slowly, naturally, inevitably throughout the night. She had not raised her voice. She had not demanded attention. She had simply revealed the truth of who she was and allowed the consequences to fall exactly where they were earned. Charles Kingsley stepped toward Selena, his voice low with sincerity and the weight of a leader forced to confront the reality of his family's legacy. "Miss Ward," he said, "I know there is no undoing what happened tonight. But I want you to know that I am committed to rebuilding what my sister has damaged, both in this room and beyond it." Selena studied him carefully, her gaze calm, but not unkind. "Rebuilding starts with acknowledgement," she replied. "And you have taken the first step." Charles nodded, though his expression carried the exhaustion of a man facing the aftermath of both a financial collapse and a personal reckoning. "If there is ever a chance to work with you again," he said softly, "we would be honored." Selena did not answer immediately. She let the words rest between them like an unanswered question suspended in light. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. "Respect will always matter more than opportunity. If your culture changes, your company may one day be worthy of partnership." The room hummed with that single sentence. It was not vindictive. It was not triumphant. It was the truth spoken clearly, without apology. Ariana choked out a breath. "So that is it. My entire future, gone because of one moment." Selena turned toward her with a calm that cut deeper than anger. "Your future is not gone," she said. "It is simply being rewritten. And perhaps for the first time, you will have to earn the respect you once demanded." Ariana looked down, unable to meet her eyes. In the corner of the ballroom, some guests lowered their phones, no longer filming but absorbing the lesson unfolding before them. Others exchanged quiet thoughts, murmuring about accountability, power, and the way character reveals itself under pressure. Evan Liu, still clutching the tablet that had changed everything, stepped forward hesitantly. "Miss Ward," he said, his voice almost trembling, "I am sorry I did not speak sooner." Selena turned to him, her expression softening just slightly. "You spoke when it mattered," she said. "And that is what courage often looks like." His eyes widened with gratitude, and for a moment the weight of the night seemed to lighten. Slowly, the tension in the ballroom loosened as guests began to shift, some approaching Selena quietly to offer support, others backing away from the Kingsley family with delicate precision. Charles placed a hand on his sister's shoulder, not to comfort her, but to guide her toward the realization she had been avoiding for years. Ariana followed reluctantly, her steps unsteady but her silence deeper than any apology she could have spoken. Selena turned toward the exit, the soft hum of the orchestra returning in the background as if the music had been waiting for her decision. Each step she took left behind the echo of a night that would be remembered not for scandal, but for transformation. As she reached the door, the crowd parted instinctively, creating a path of respect she had earned through composure and unshakable dignity. Just before leaving, she glanced back once, her voice calm enough to settle every breath in the room. "I did not raise my voice tonight," she said. "I raised the standard." And with that final truth, Selena Ward walked out of the Kingsley estate, leaving the empire she had just dismantled to reckon with the silence she left behind. A silence filled with consequence, clarity, and the beginning of change.